Is there any ratio between number of employees in a company and number of HRs in a company? What is competency and what is competency mapping? How do you calculate IQ? I'm sure you must have heard this term IQ, but how do you calculate it? Offer letter, letter of intent, appointment letter. What is the basic difference among these three terms? How we should measure effectiveness of any training program? What is minimum wage in your state? What are minimum leaves there? Do we have labor laws for IT companies too? What about terms and conditions for probation period, interns, contract labor? How to calculate TDS and how to create a win-win situation for employer and employee both. In this course, we will be covering these topics and many more. Main agenda would be to cover the current trends in HRM so that it gives you more confidence in your job. So why to wait? Let's start this interesting journey.
What is Human Resource Management or HRM? Well, to understand this, first let us understand what is human resource. And to understand what is human resource, let us start with what is resource. Well, resources are the input you require to produce some output. The final output could be goods or services. And the example for resources could be land, capital, raw material, electricity, machine, technology, people, etc. And the goods or services could be your iPhone, your video games, movies, Netflix, cricket, etc. Now, if I ask you which of these resources is the most important, well, the answer is people. Because it is the people who manage all the resources. It is the people who set the vision for the company, plan for it, and execute it. For example, Apple needs good engineers to make awesome products. Zara or Puma need good designers to make good products. Universities require qualified professors to educate students, etc. People are the most important resource for a company and they are referred to as human resource of the company. In this regard, Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company, has said, "You can take my factories, burn up my buildings, but give me my people, and I will build a business right back again." These people who work for an organization are referred as human resources. They could be permanent employees, interns, freelancers, or could have contractual positions in the company. Now, if we talk about what is human resource management, well, I have been a part of many interviews and most common answers I get to hear from freshers are, first, some people say HRM is managing people. Second, some people say that like we have different departments in company like technology, product, finance, marketing. Similarly, we have an HR department. And while some others say that human resource management means reading people's mind and controlling them. Now all these definitions are incomplete. One of the most common and popular way of defining HRM is by the many functions that it constitutes. The key functions are attracting, developing, utilizing, retaining and motivating. Now why attracting? Well, we require new people to join the company by telling them about the job profile, the company, the compensation, etc. and choose the correct people to fill the company's requirement. For example, colleges require teachers and so they post the open requirements for hiring them. Then comes developing. Well, the new candidate we are hiring for a role or already existing employee need to be upskilled for a particular task. In such cases, HR helps in arranging necessary training for these people so that the competency gap between the expectations and realities can be filled. For example, because of COVID-19, college classes are usually taking place online instead of in classroom face-to-face training. But are the teachers trained to teach on tech platforms such as Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Team, etc.? Perhaps no. Also, it has been realized that virtual sessions are not as interactive as classroom training, but then research was done and company used Mural, Slido, etc. came up, which help in making virtual training in an interesting manner. Now the teachers need to be trained for using these online tools or softwares. For this, HR can hire experts either internally or externally and train the teachers on using these online tools. In this way, the staff, in this case the teachers, can be developed to deal with such situations by training them. Next come is utilizing. In simple word, it means giving task or work as per the strength and weakness of the workforce and current requirement. Let us say we hire two HRs, HRA and HRB. HRA who is very good with numbers and HRB who has exceptional communication skills. And they both are hired for the same role. But the HR function involves a lot of things to be done. So we can ask this person A to mainly take care of payroll processing, which is task of managing wages of each employee as it requires a good hold on numbers and formulas, etc. While the other person B can be asked to give presentation when needed or build rapport with other employees. So this is utilizing. Then we have retaining and motivating. You don't want to change the staff again and again because if they leave, then HR will have to look for more people to fill the vacant positions and train them again. Also, you want them to be productive. Motivating the employees to work is also part of retaining them. So the HR has a responsibility of making sure the employees of the company continue to work for the company. Therefore, it is important that employees have enough incentives and good working conditions so that they continue to work with the company. So for example, we don't want to change teachers frequently because it will not give a good impression of the college and it will also take time to hire and train new teachers. Hence, to retain teachers, the colleges give better salaries, better flexibility in teaching hours, more paid leaves, etc. In this respect, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn are known for their amazing work culture. And hence, to summarize, HR is the management of human resources by attracting, developing, utilizing, and retaining the human resources to achieve the organization's objectives. Or simply, hiring human resources and effectively and efficiently managing them to achieve the company's objective is known as human resource management. Now I have a question. So human resource management, so whether it is a science or arts? Well, the answer is it is both. It is science because it is backed by studies and has universal truths. It draws inspiration from various fields such as management, psychology, sociology, and economics. For example, while selecting candidates, nowadays more and more companies are conducting proper assessment tests such as IQ tests, personality tests, psychometric tests, etc. It is also an art because there is more than one way of doing things and sometimes no backed universal studies. Different people have different views. For example, everyone have a different way of building a rapport with other people or for getting the work done from other. One of the reasons for this is that it is management of people and people are complex creatures with complicated needs, desires and emotions. Hence, we can summarize that HRM is both science and arts. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So in the previous topic, we have already discussed that HRM is the management of human resources of the company by attracting, developing, utilizing, and retaining them to achieve the company's objective. Keeping this definition in mind, in this topic, we will understand the various functions of HRM. Now, before we start with the list of functions, it is important for you to understand that we will cover all these functions in detail in the upcoming modules. So you need not worry if you do not understand the meaning of the functions in too much detail. All you need to remember from this video are the names of these functions and also gain an overview of what each of these mean. So let's start. First in the list is manpower planning or human resource planning. This means determining the manpower requirement of the company, both in terms of number and the quality of the human resource. So this function basically ensures that the company has suitable access to talent to ensure future business success. The main question answered at this stage is how many more people do I require, or do I have excess of them? Example, you have a big software development project coming up from one of the top banks, then how many more people do you require? Sometimes people are in excess and you might need to adjust them. It considers so many factors such as budget, quality of product, skills, experience, competition, etc. We will definitely discuss more about the trends shortly. Next function is job analysis. Job analysis is the systematic process of gathering, documenting, and analyzing data about the job profile. It produces information on what the job entails, such as the roles and responsibilities, work location, pay scale, etc. It also tells what kind of people to hire for the job, such as what should be their minimum education, work experience, etc. This job analysis is usually prepared by the HRs in sync with the managers. Here, we will talk about competency-based job analysis. Nowadays, companies are moving towards this and it's a very interesting topic to work on. Next function is recruitment and selection. Recruitment is the process by which the potential candidates are informed about the job profile and attracted to apply for the same. And selecting the right candidate from this pool of candidates is known as selection. In the practical scenario, you will hear the term recruitment being used for the entire process, from informing the candidate about the job to selecting them. So don't get confused. On face value, recruitment looks very simple, that it is just informing about the open requirements, and unemployment is usually high, and hence it's a very simple function. However, sometimes your job requirement is not attractive and sometimes there are more companies who have presented themselves better. Hence, you need to work hard to attract suitable talent. Nowadays, there are many types of assessments which you should be aware of. We will definitely discuss them. Next up is training and development. Many times it happens that there is a gap in the expectations of a job and the competencies of the employees. Now, this gap can be in the competencies of a new employee or for an existing employee. To fill this gap, the employees are trained to upskill them and develop their skills. So, for example, I want people to have hands-on experience on MS Excel, so I will arrange a training for them. Again, this can be decided by the HR or a request can come for the manager of these employees. Here we will discuss about ADDIE model, which is a very popular training model nowadays. Next, we will look at the performance management system. This function covers setting the expectations for each job role and measuring and giving feedback on the employee's performance. Again, setting a goal might look simple, but for that, you need to have a good understanding of their jobs and then motivating them. Next is compensation planning and remuneration. This covers financial and non-financial rewards such as salary, bonus, incentives, food coupons, etc. Here, we will talk about the terms and conditions of different allowances, how to calculate TDS, and how to create a win-win situation for employees and employers both. Then we come to employee retention and motivation. This function is important because we don't want the staff to be changed frequently. Thus, the HR needs to come up with creative and interesting ways of motivating employees. We will talk about interesting trends in this. Next is labor laws and statutory compliances. Every company has to follow the laws of the land, that is the laws of that country in which the company is operating. This function covers laws and compliances such as Provident Fund or PF, maternity benefits, minimum wages, etc. This is the most important function, else company might be in legal trouble and also not good for the brand. Next is HRIS. HRIS stands for Human Resource Information System. It is the function of maintaining data such as about recruitment, personal details of employees, compensation, attendance, trainings taken by the employees, etc. Earlier, it used to be maintained mainly in hard copies, but nowadays it is usually maintained in the digital form. We will cover commonly used formulas in MS Excel and commonly used features of Google Drive. The final function that we will cover is HR branding. Now, we all know that most companies focus on marketing and branding of its products and services, right? We see so many marketing campaigns on Instagram, Facebook, etc. HR branding is similar, but here, instead of marketing the company's products and services, it is the company itself who marketing and branding is done. With the intention to attract more talent to join the company, HR branding is a new and creative function. So, for example, you would have seen pictures of company parties on LinkedIn, etc., or testimonials from existing employees on how good the learning curve has been for them, or how good the culture of the company is, etc. All this will help in attracting new candidates to join the company and comes under HR branding. One of the best strategy is to keep your current employees happy so that they do the positive branding for the company. We will cover all these functions in great detail in the upcoming modules. This video was just to give you an overview of all that an HR does before we dive deep into it. Thank you.
Hi everyone. In the previous topic, we studied about the meaning of manpower planning. The objective of this section on manpower planning is to help you understand how manpower can be planned for various teams or departments or for the entire organization. So, moving on in that direction, in this topic, we will talk about the steps involved in manpower planning. The first step is to analyze the objectives of the team or department or organization. Knowing what the company or a department is aiming to achieve will give better visibility on the manpower required to help achieve these objectives. This is usually done in sync with the respective seniors of the departments and the HR. It can be done individually by the HRs too. So, for example, a retail company may have plans to open a new store, or an IT company got a new project. Once we know what the company plans to achieve, it becomes easier to understand how much manpower is required to achieve these objectives. These objectives can also be broken down to department level or team level. Next step is to assess the current manpower inventory. So once we know the goals of the organization, we need to first check the current manpower that we have, both in terms of quantity and quality. The third step is forecasting the manpower requirement. Forecasting means to predict or estimate. Now, calculating this can be a task and it involves a lot of factors. We will understand what these factors are in detail later in this topic. Basically, in this step, we try to estimate or forecast how many people will be required by each department or by the organization to achieve its objectives. So let's say we forecast the total manpower requirement to be 1200. So we know what the goals of the organization or the departments are, then we know how many people we already have, both in terms of quantity and quality, and then we forecast how many people are actually needed to achieve the objectives and goals set. Now, the next step is to forecast the manpower availability. Remember that this step is different from the previous step on forecasting the manpower requirement. Now, what we mean by forecasting of manpower availability is that, let's say the organization has 100 employees at present, but some people may be leaving in the upcoming year or some may join. So how do we know that some people will leave soon? Well, some of them may have already resigned and may be serving notice periods. Or some people may be retiring or getting transferred to a different department, etc. In such cases, these people will not be available to achieve the company's or department's objectives in the near future. But they would have been counted when assessing the current manpower inventory, and thus we need to make them into account when doing manpower planning so that we can plan for replacing them. This will become more clear when we will take an example to understand all these steps of manpower planning. Now, what do we mean when we say that some people may join the company? Well, this takes into account those people who have already been hired before the manpower planning begins, but may have later joining dates, which means that they will not be accounted for in the step where we assess the current manpower inventory. But since they have already been hired, we need to count them while doing manpower planning. So we count all such people here in this step. The next step is to plan the difference. So we have to see how many people are available and how many the company or department needs to be able to achieve the objectives. This difference needs to be planned for, and then that many people need to be hired. It actually includes both recruitment, if more staff is required, and layoffs if there is excess staff. Again, this will become clear when we will look at the example of manpower planning in the next video. The last step is monitor, control, and feedback. So once we have planned for the manpower, it is important to make sure that and check if one is on the right track or not. Also, if any factor is changing, then how does it affect manpower planning? And if any changes need to be made there or not. So for example, if a new competitor emerges suddenly, then how do we need to change our planning? Such questions need to be dealt within this step. Click Next to explore more. Thank you. Hi everyone. In the previous part, we talked about various steps involved in manpower planning. Now, let's take an example to understand these steps practically. Let's look at this table here. The first column has the names of departments which we have shown using alphabets. Department A, Department B, C, D, E, and F. The second column has the forecasted manpower required. That is, how many people do you require as per work or strategy of the company. The third column has the current manpower of these departments, also known as the present human inventory. The next column has the potential losses or the tentative resignations or separations. Then we have the column on potential additions, which includes the count of those people who have already been hired but may have a later joining date. The next column has the forecasted manpower availability. This is calculated by subtracting the potential losses from the present manpower inventory and adding the potential additions to it. This gives us the forecasted manpower availability. So, this gives us the total number of people we will have in the future. Then, we come to the next column, which is for the tentative gap and is equal to the forecasted manpower required minus forecasted manpower availability. So, let's see how this is calculated. The formula that is essentially getting used here is gap equals to forecasted manpower required minus manpower availability. So here, if you look at Department A, we want 32 people. 30 is the current count for Department A. 2 will be leaving, 3 will be joining. Hence, future manpower availability is 30 minus 2 plus 3, that is 31. But we require 32, hence the gap is 1, which means that we need 1 more. Similarly, if we look at this row, row 2, for organization B, the tentative gap will be 25 minus 19, that is 6. So, 6 people need to be hired. Similarly, we have calculated the gap for the rest of the departments. Here, if you see in row 3, for organization C, the total manpower required is 5. 7 is the current strength, 1 will be leaving, and 6 people will be there in the future. But we require only 6. So the gap is minus 1. 5 minus 6, that is minus 1, which means it is in excess. Remember, these are tentative numbers. Better analytical skills you have, better would be your projections. So now we have understood how to calculate the tentative gap and also the steps taken during manpower planning. This was a plan for 3 months. You can plan for more time, let's say for a year or for a shorter duration. With this, we come to the end of this video. Click next to jump in the next video. Thank you.
Hi everyone. In the previous sections, we talked about the steps for forecasting manpower requirements, and we also got to know how to calculate the tentative gap in manpower. Now, the steps on forecasting the manpower requirement involves a lot of factors. In this video, we will try to understand these factors. The first thing that I'll begin with is that there is no fixed formula for forecasting the manpower required. So, if we go back and look at this table here, the data for the third column can be found very easily. The data for current manpower or present human inventory can be very easily found. We can simply count the number of people that each team or department or organization has. These two columns, column for potential losses and column for potential additions, will also be easy to fill, since we can know this by looking at our records, how many people are leaving and how many new people are joining. But what about this column? Column for forecasted manpower requirement. There is no set formula to finding the required manpower. It is all based on various factors, and in this video, we will talk what these factors are. So, let's get started. Factors of forecasting manpower requirement includes economy of the country or that region in which the company is operating, the financial condition of the company and the budget that the company has. Another factor is workload. Let's take an example to understand how we can forecast manpower requirements based on workload. Let's assume the annual production target of a company is 5 lakh units, and we know that the standard work hours required to complete 1 unit of the product is 2 hours. From past experience with the company, the HR knows that on an average, a worker contributes about 2,000 hours of work per year. Having all this information, the workload can be calculated in the following manner. So, the planned man hours required for the year are 10 lakh hours. Annual contribution of a worker is 2,000 hours. Hence, the number of workers required will be 10 lakh divided by 2,000, which is 500. So 500 people will be required to complete the annual production target. I hope you understood how to calculate manpower requirements based on the workload. This was an example of a manufacturing company. Next, we will look at the factors for manpower forecasting for the retail industry. Few retail companies plan for manpower based on the store area. So they can have, let's say, one salesperson for every 300 square feet of area. So if the size of the store is 3000 square feet, the total people required will be 10. Of course, this is just for ground staff. They may also have one team leader for every 5 sales staff, plus one store manager, 2 cashiers, etc. Similarly, different industries can have different factors. Another factor can be company policy. So for example, Zara, a popular clothing brand, has a policy of not having many front staff people on the floor. Hence, the number will vary here, and manpower will be planned for accordingly for different companies. Next factor is technology. So if automation comes in, less staff may be required. Let's say some manufacturing company has found an automatic process for one of their steps in the manufacturing chain. In this case, they will need less people for that particular work, which is now automated. One example can be for the HR department. So let's say a company was earlier taking attendance and doing payroll processing manually, but now they plan to add biometric systems for attendance and have also automated the payroll processing. In such a case, they will need less staff to take care of such things. Another example can be of banks. Now, most of the work is done digitally, and you don't need to go to the bank. So you can see how technology can be an important factor when doing manpower planning. In this respect, there's a video of how technology reduces the work of a manual staff. Let's have a look.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store, so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
Next factor is availability of skills. Now, if we talk of companies like Google and Microsoft, it is very difficult to clear their interviews because they have a high bar on the skills of the candidate, and therefore the availability of the pool of candidates may reduce for them. So if a company is very choosy, then manpower planning will be done differently. Next is the legal factor. Now, let's say I'm starting my own company and I have a budget of 40K. So I plan to hire 4 employees and give them a remuneration of 10K each. But there are minimum wages in place, which is, let's say, 18,000 minimum to be paid to a full-time employee. In this case, I can hire only 2 people. So you see how the legal aspect changes the manpower planning. Another example would be that in countries like the UK. It is very difficult to fire people legally. Hence, hiring in bulk and then firing in bulk policy will not work there. Next factor is manpower type. So if a company is hiring on commission basis, then they can hire more employees, since they are not liable to pay them salaries every month. Hence, manpower planning will be done differently here. Next is social or cultural factors. So for example, women do not prefer late shifts or traveling jobs. Then this will have to be kept in mind when hiring employees for certain roles. So in this case, the pool of prospective candidates becomes limited to men only, and recruitment will become difficult. Hence, pick your numbers which are practical to achieve. Next factor is pressure groups or trade unions. Now, in case the union of factory workers decides that they will not work for less salary from now on, then again this will affect the manpower planning of the company. So, if the company has financial constraints, then they need to limit the hires and pay more than the minimum wages to them. Next factor is learning and development. Now, if you already have a learning and development team, in short called the L&D department or team, then you can hire unskilled people for lesser salaries and train them. But if you don't have an L&D team in place, then you will need to hire skilled people at higher salaries. The last factor we will look at is competitors. Now, if a big competitor is taking hold of the market, then you may think of hiring more people to make your position in the market stronger. So you can see how all these factors can be considered when planning for manpower. Sometimes you may consider just one factor, while most of the time you are likely to consider more than one factor. Business acumen plays a very important role here. If an HR has a strong hold on business acumen, it will help in analyzing the macro pictures of business and in manpower planning. So now you know what you need to do to be strong in this function of HR. I hope this video was informative and you will now be able to do manpower planning for your company. With this, we come to the end of this topic. Click Next to explore more. Thank you.
Hi everyone. In this video, I will introduce you to a new aspect, which is job analysis. We will talk about meaning of job analysis, components of traditional job analysis, that is job description and job specification. Then, we will go through competency-based job analysis and its applications. Pay good attention to this video as this will be the base for our further discussions. So, the first question that we will address is, what is job analysis? Job analysis is the systematic process of gathering, documenting, and analyzing data about the job. It produces two sets of information, one about the job, and second, what kind of people or what kind of characteristics of the people are required for the job. The component which talks about what the job entails is called job description, and the other component which talks about the kind of person required for the job is termed as job specification. In this topic, we will look into the documentation part of job analysis. So, coming back to the definition of job analysis, we can say that job analysis is equal to job description plus job specification. Talking about job description contains items such as the job title, for example, iOS developer, marketing head, or HR manager. The grade or category or scale of the job, such as is it an entry-level profile or a senior-level profile. Sometimes companies have internal grading, such as grade A, B, C, etc. Then there is the department or branch. For example, is it a role in the HR department, finance department, or IT department. Next, it has the pay scale, job summary, which includes the essence of the job, or key functions and activities involved. It also has details about the job location, responsibilities and duties, working hours and days, machines, tools, softwares or equipment used in the job, working conditions and hazards, especially used in the factories and mines, and other details like who to report to or whom to supervise or externally working with, such as with engineers, farmers, etc. Next up, we have the job specifications. The job specifications contain items such as the knowledge or education required for the job, skills or experiences required, physical characteristics, such as some jobs require people to be above a particular height and weight, such as for an air hostess in some airlines. It also includes the personality traits required, such as the positive attitude or customer-centric approach. Now, if I talk in the practical sense, job description and job specification combined are commonly referred to as job description or JD. JS or job specification is not a commonly used term, and you will mostly hear HRs or recruiters use the term JD for both these things. So don't get confused. Now, let's look at an example to see how a JD is written. This JD is taken from Naukri portal. The title of the profile is Android Developer. The experience required is 3 to 5 years. The location is Bangalore or Gurgaon. And the remuneration is not disclosed by the recruiter. This is all a part of JD, as you must have understood. The first section here has the company profile, which tells about the company, what it does, what sector it works in, etc. Next section is on job roles and responsibilities. This is JD. Next section is on required skills and expertise. This is JS, job specification. Next section is summary, such as the role, which is given here as software developer, the industry, which is IT software or software services, the functional area of this industry, the role category, and the employment type, which is full-time and permanent. Then more details about the company. So, I hope you have an idea now what is written in a JD or a job posting. You can follow any sequence, but try to give complete clarity so that later on, when the candidate reads it, there is no confusion in his or her mind. Try to make it interesting and write what they would be gaining from this. With this, we come to the end of this video. We have learned a lot of new things here. We have understood what job analysis means. We also know what constitutes a job description and what comes in a job specification. Also, we know that both these are commonly referred to as JD. And we have also looked at an example of a job description in detail. Remember, this was traditional job analysis. I hope you have understood it all. Move ahead only once the basics are clear. Click next to jump in the next video. Thank you. Hi everyone. In the previous video, we understood the meaning of job analysis and its two parts, job description and job specification. The job analysis concept that we discussed in the last video is referred as traditional job analysis, where more focus is given to job description over job specification. That is when, given the details about a job, more importance is given to the details about the job, such as the roles and responsibilities, than to the qualities required in the candidate. However, with the changing times, the focus is shifting more towards the qualities of the candidate. In this regard, a new concept that is gaining popularity is competency-based job analysis. To get a clear understanding of what is competency-based job analysis, we will try to understand what is competency. So what do you mean by competency? Many people consider it as skills. However, in HR, it has slightly different meaning. So competencies are typically defined as a combination of knowledge, skills, and attitude, also called as KSA, that can be reliably measured and that can be shown to differentiate performance. These should be observable behaviors to avoid biases or gut feeling. Let's take an example to understand this better. So let's say I want to hire a driver for myself. Now let's rewind in time and understand how the person would have become a driver. He would have gone to a driving school perhaps, and in the first few days the trainer would have told things like how to take a U-turn, how to turn right or left, or how to take reverse, etc. This is just the knowledge initially. Then the person would start driving, and over time his knowledge will become his skill. Now he has both knowledge and skills. But is that enough for him to be hired as a driver? Well, let's see. Now let's say this candidate has 20 plus years of experience and he comes for the interview. We can be confident that he has the knowledge and skills. But what about his attitude? Let's say I tell him that I'll be traveling to different client locations and the timing of the job will be from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And sometimes he may have to extend the shift. And he replies with a no, that he cannot extend his shift in any situation. Or maybe he drives the car beautifully on the road, but every time he comes across someone who is not driving properly, he creates a big fuss on the road. You can see how in both these situations, his attitude is not ideal for the job. So attitude element is missing here. And even though knowledge and skills are complete, he will not be a match for my open requirement. Now, how can we assess the knowledge, skills, and attitude? Well, we can do that by his behavior or actions. So it's sort of having a checklist of what we require in the candidate and assessing him or her against this checklist by observing his behaviors while taking interviews. Instead of saying "Maza nahi aaya," must be able to clearly explain why you are selecting or rejecting that person. It should be clearly visible. For example, he is able to apply VLOOKUP in MS Excel instead of saying he is good in MS Excel. Try to say he is able to speak fluently in English instead of saying he knows English. So be clear with your words. As we said earlier, competency is something that can be reliably measured and that can be shown to differentiate performance. For example, if I'm looking for a candidate with excellent English language competency, now how can I assess this person? Maybe I can do it by his or her behavior. So the lowest behavior I'm expecting is, can the candidate understand when someone is speaking in English? Next level will be, does the person speak English in a local accent and makes a few mistakes? And the next level can be, can the candidate speak fluently and with no mistakes? Such behavior indicators will help me assess the candidate. Defining competencies behaviorally provides a solid basis for differentiating between employees who are performing more or less effectively than others. So, we have seen that competency is a combination of knowledge, skills, and attitude, K, S, and A. But there are other models as well that are used to define competency. Let's have a look at what these are. So we will look at two different models here. One is the KSA model, where KSA stands for knowledge, skills, and abilities. So if you see, we have replaced the earlier attitude of KSA with abilities here. And the other model is the KSAO. where each alphabet stands for knowledge, skills, abilities, and other individual characteristics. The other individual characteristics include, but are not limited to, motives, personality traits, self-concepts, attitudes, beliefs, values, and interests. Now, the term ability in both these models stands for potential or the ability to apply knowledge and skills. The concept in all these three models remain the same. One can choose to use any of these models. What is important is that all the competencies should be reliably measured and that they can be shown to differentiate performance. They should be observable behaviors to avoid biases or gut feeling. Okay, so we have understood what we mean by competency. Now it's important that you do not confuse yourself between competency and the word competence. If we go by the dictionary, both the terms are perceived to bear the same meaning. A few other words associated with them are qualified, ability, proficiency, and capacity. However, if we talk about the HR domain, then they are slightly different concepts. Competence means the ability to do the job, while competency includes a positive attitude too. So we can say that competency equals to commitment plus competence, where commitment stands for intention and positive attitude. So I hope now when someone uses competence instead of competency in reference to the HR domain, you'll be able to tell them the difference. Moving on, there are two broad types of competencies. One is core or generic or organizational level competency, which are usually the same for all the profiles in an organization, such as an organization may want all its employees to have certain competencies such as teamwork, good communication, integrity, etc. The other type is functional or technical competency, which is specific for every job profile. Some examples of this can be payroll processing as a competency for the HR role, or good convincing skills can be a competency for the sales profile, etc. I hope you have an idea of what competency is, the KSA model of competency mapping, that competency is equal to commitment plus competence, and the two different types of competencies, core or generic or organizational, and functional or technical competencies. With this, we come to the end of this video. In the next video, we will finally understand the meaning of competency-based job analysis. See you in the next one. Thank you.
Hi, so in the previous lecture, we have already talked about job analysis and specifically about competency-based job analysis. Now to understand the key competencies, first you need to collect information about the jobs, right? Now how can you collect this information? So in this topic, we'll see what are the common methods of collecting information about the job. The first method that we'll look is observation. In this method, the HR or the concerned person carefully observes the job holder and then document what the job holder is doing. Now, observation is more practical method to use when the candidate you are observing is involved and more physical activities in this job are happening. Then for a candidate who is more involved in cognitive tasks such as with lawyers or scientists. Now let us see two examples to understand how observation can be used to gather information about a job. First, let us take an example of a receptionist. Now, if I start observing a receptionist, I might notice these pointers such as how is she greeting the customers, taking care of booking or checking of rooms, how she takes printouts for bookings, how she explains interesting maybe membership programs or some additional facilities, how she takes care of customer grievances, etc. Hence, I can deduce from these observations that she should have a pleasing personality, must be aware of at least the basic functionality while booking or checking rooms. She must know how to operate printer and the basic troubleshooting, must be good in convincing skills for converting customers to take up membership program, and must have analytical skills for grievance handling. So you see how observation of a job holder helps the HR or the job analyst collect information about the job. But observation was a very useful method for gathering information about the job of a receptionist, since the job role is comparatively easy to understand and comprehend. Imagine if you have to do this for the job of a lawyer. Here it will become difficult to observe the lawyer in a similar manner, since we don't have much knowledge about the domain, or also because it involves higher order of cognitive activities which are difficult to observe. A few other jobs for which observation may be difficult can be those of a doctor, mobile app developer. So the observation can be chosen as a method only for those skills where it is easy to observe the behavior, and also you have at least a basic understanding of that domain, right? So the next method we'll look at is interviews. In this, the job analyst or interview or HR interviews a job holder and his or her supervisor to gather information about the job. This involves a two-way conversation between the analyst and the person giving interviews. Hence, this gives more clarity than the previous method of observation. Let us understand this with the help of an example. So let us say the job is to do an entry-level graphic designer. Here you may ask the manager to give some details about the same. Some of the questions asked can be, what exactly are the job duties of this position? What tools or software are must to know and which one are good to know? How many projects must the candidate have worked on? What is the minimum experience required? What challenges might be faced in the job, such as working in the tight deadlines, etc. What are some other non-technical expectations from the role, such as on and off interaction with client, maybe traveling sometime, teamwork, etc. So do you observe something here? All the questions are based on job description and job specification that we talked about. So this helps in creating the complete job analysis part. You can frame such questions for any profile and get the required information. And now the next method is questionnaire. In this, the senior members of the same department fill in the given questionnaire. Now this method of collecting job data is desirable, especially in two scenarios. One is if the conducting personal interviews is a time consuming task, and second, it becomes giving a questionnaire gives a job holder enough time to think and analyze in depth the various aspects of his job. This is very similar to interview method, just that here you give the person answering the questions enough time to think about the answers and even find out answers if needed. The questions in this method can be same as that of what you were asking in interview method. Now the next method of collecting information is of examining manuals or reference material. In analyzing jobs, the job analysis goes through the records and note down the relevant aspect of job details. He may use quality manuals, timelines, human resource manuals, procedures, instructions, forms, feedbacks, etc. to get the details about the job. Now, all these terms may be new to you. You can read more about them online if you wish to. Basically, these are different types of reference material or document that are used to collect information about the job. So if you find something interesting or relevant, you can get that information. So for example, if you want to hire a recruiter whose job would be to recruit more talent for your organization, and you want to collect information about how many calls that recruiter have to make, usually makes in a day. To find this data, you can collect the record of existing recruiters in your company and see how many calls they are making on daily basis or on weekly basis to get an idea, right? So next is technical conference method. Here supervisors, experts, subject matter expert to discussion and give their expert advice and views regarding the job. So let's say Manish is an HR of a firm and he needs to recruit 8 new machine operators. For this, he need to do a job analysis for the role, but he neither has the time nor does he have the knowledge of the job to be able to observe, interview or send questionnaire. So in order to get information or better understanding of the job, Manish calls a meeting with the seniors of the same department. He asks them for their expert input about the job role, duties, working condition, hazards, skills required by a machine operator, and uses this new information for the job analysis. So by this method, Manish is able to quickly complete his task. He can take advice from people outside his company also if they have relevant experience in that domain. So one thing that we must take care of when using any of this method is that the opinions you are gathering should come from the right set of people. Else the quality of your job analysis will be impacted such that you may end up getting incorrect information. Hence choose the people you are gathering the information from wisely. Now it is not necessary that only one method is used, but a job analyst mostly use a combination of these methods to gather detail about the information.
Hi everyone. We have successfully completed Module 2 on manpower planning and job analysis. And I hope now you know more about the HR domain. This module is on recruitment and selection. Before moving further, let me ask you few simple questions. Are recruitment and selection same or different? What is headhunting? What is poaching? What do you mean by buyout clause? Just pause the video and think. Many people believe that recruitment and selection are the same thing, and hence they use it interchangeably. However, the fact is that both are separate terms. In simple terms, recruitment is searching candidates and selection is choosing from these candidates. Let's talk in detail to get a better clarity. Recruitment starts with shortlisting the sources. For example, you want to approach colleges, search resumes or post on job portals, look for internal references, etc. Then you inform these prospective candidates about the open requirement. Next comes the selection. Selection is a filtering process. Here, you choose who suits from the above pool of interested candidates. Remember, recruitment comes before selection. Both are different theoretically. However, in the practical sense, they are used interchangeably. For example, if your manager asks, how many people have you recruited? Then he is asking how many people have been finally selected. Now, we will look at some new terms related to the function of recruitment and selection. The first term that we will look at is talent acquisition. Talent acquisition is a new buzzword for the combined process of recruitment and selection. The next term we will look at is headhunting. Headhunting means to apply smarter strategies for hiring such as networking, using LinkedIn, etc. For example, if you want to hire a CTO for your company or a chief technical officer for your company, then you can look for CTOs in similar companies and let them know about the job of CTO in your company. Next term is executive search. It means hiring for senior positions such as marketing head, senior finance manager, CEO, etc. Mostly headhunting is done for the executive search. So that was all about these terms. You may hear them in your professional career, and hence it is important that you know what they mean. Click next to explore more. Thank you. Hi everyone. In this topic, we will talk about steps involved in recruitment and selection. The first step in the process of recruitment and selection is sourcing and informing about the open requirements. Sourcing means finding or identifying the candidates through a variety of methods. These methods or channels from which we can find potential candidates are job portals, colleges, recruitment agencies, networking, etc. Next step is pre-screening or HR screening. It is done to see if the people actually match with the criteria or not. By criteria, I mean competency, experience, salary range, notice period, that is to remove irrelevant applications. For example, you're looking for an Android developer with 3 to 4 years of experience and who has at least 4 applications on Play Store. Now, you need to filter out the candidates who has say 10 years of experience or who has just 1 application live on Play Store. Next step is assessment. Here, you take test or interview whether they have relevant knowledge, skills, and right attitude for your open requirements. Then comes decision, negotiations, and job offer. Here, the panel takes decisions, candidates are informed, and different terms and conditions such as salary, notice period, date of joining, etc. are finalized. Then, background and reference checks. It is done to cross-check what the candidates are claiming is right or not. Details could be of last companies, address, education, behavior, etc. Then comes onboarding. Onboarding is the process of familiarizing a new employee with the organization and work expectation in more detail. Onboarding begins from the moment an offer is made to the employee until the time the employee becomes a productive member of the organization. The duration varies from organization to organization. Remember, the process can be customized. For example, few companies do background verification before job offer and after confirmation. Few give before onboarding and few after onboarding. With this, we came to the end of this topic. I hope you have understood various steps involved in the process of recruitment and selection. The process goes on till the candidate becomes a productive employee of the organization. Also, some companies may swap the order of these steps based on their preference. So, this was all about steps involved in the process of recruitment and selection. Click next to explore more. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So in the previous video, we have seen internal as well as external sources of recruitment. Now, it totally depends on you for which profile you want to hire someone. You can choose the sources accordingly. You'll be using many sources, but one source that is quite commonly used and is gaining popularity is job portals. So we will look at job portals in this video in detail. Job portals or job boards are sites where you can advertise about jobs and search for resumes. They are an integral part of almost every hiring process, and using them effectively will translate into qualified candidates for relatively low cost. In this video, we will look at a few commonly used job portals, and then we will look at one such portal in detail. So first on the list is Naukri.com. This is the most popular portal as it has a huge database, but it is quite costly as compared to other platforms. It acquires over 60% share in the Indian job hunt market space. A few other platforms that are commonly used by the people are LinkedIn, Facebook, Indeed, Internshala, Updaz, Hirist, and InstaHire. Talking about LinkedIn, LinkedIn serves as a reliable platform for job searching and job posting. It's a digital resume, and the platform has a majority of professionals on it. Facebook covers specific job postings, such as sales, technical support, medical staff, graphic designers, IT staff, etc. Facebook has a job functionality of its own, which is called as Facebook Jobs, and you can use that for hiring. You can also become part of different relevant groups and do job postings there. This is very useful for sales profile. Next is Indeed. It is one of the largest job search engines with over millions of job listings aggregated from thousands of websites, which includes company career sites, job boards and forums, and newspaper classifieds. Indeed strives to put job seekers first. It allows the users to post their resume, search for jobs, and even research companies. Internshala. It is popular for internships in almost every domain. InstaHire, which is used mainly for IT jobs, then Hirist, which is used for technical profiles only, and then Updaz, which is used for sales requirements only. Now, there are some others that can be used for hiring blue-collar employees. These are Quicker, OLX, and Work India. Explore more about these platforms and get more information about them. Apart from this, a lot more job portals are coming up, and we should always be updated with newer platforms that keep emerging. Now, we will go through the interface of Naukri.com in detail, and this will give you an idea on how to work with other platforms as well. Click Next to explore more. Thank you. Hi everyone. You're now deep in the selection process, having screened candidates filtered below par candidates. It's finally time to meet in person with those promising candidates and determine who's going to be your next hire. So, there are two types of interviews: unstructured interviews and structured interviews. Talking about unstructured interviews, there is no standardized approach of asking questions in an unstructured interview, and it may vary from candidate to candidate. Whereas structured interviews, also called as competency-based interviews or behavior event interviews, they have standard structure and all the interviewers are expected to follow that pattern so that the candidates can be assessed on the same parameters. In this video, we will focus on structured interviews. List of few typical competencies: function-specific, communication, teamwork, leadership, customer focus, influencing, problem-solving, and achieving results. These are few typical competencies followed in structured interviews. Important highlight of structured interviews is that their focus is to check behavior of specific competencies rather than asking random questions. For example, if you want to assess communication of candidate, you may ask this question: can you describe a situation where you had to explain something complex to a colleague or a client? Which problems did you encounter, and how did you deal with them? Another example, suppose if you want to assess customer focus of a candidate, then you may ask this question: can you give us an example of how you provided service to a client beyond their expectations? How did you identify the need? How did you respond? For structured interviews, 4 parameters are very important: situation, task, action, and results. This is also referred to as STAR technique. For example, if you want to assess the competency of handling difficult customers, you can ask, how can you say that you are good in handling difficult customers? As an interviewee, he can say that on the big day sale there was a huge crowd on the store. One of the customers got very furious that he was not getting proper attention for his queries. There, I was in charge of that department and had to control the situation. I asked the customer to calm down and took him on the side. I tried to convince him that I totally understand him and apologize. Told him that I'll personally look into his queries. Also, asked the housekeeping boy to quickly bring water and control the situation. Customer also realized that he was overreacting and at last became very happy with how we were still very calm and did a shopping for around 45k, and now he is a regular customer. Here, let us try to see from the perspective of STAR technique. So, situation. On big day sale, there was a huge crowd in the store. One of the customers got very furious that he was not getting proper attention for his queries. Task. I had to control the situation. Action. I asked the customer to calm down and took him on side. I tried to convince him that I totally understand him and I apologize. Told him that I'll personally look into his queries. Also, I asked the housekeeping boy to quickly bring water and control the situation. Result. Customer also realized that he was overreacting and at last became very happy with how we were still very calm and did a shopping for around 45k, and now he is our regular customer. As an HR, situation refers to giving a situation to candidates to test specific competencies. Here, crowded store was a situation. In task, you can either give a task to test specific competencies or check what he has to say. For example, handling difficult customers was a task. In action, analyze which actions the candidate did to fulfill those duties, and then what results were achieved. You can either be explicit in questioning all these 4 parameters, or you can ask them how they can support that they have the relevant competency. Candidates who are fully prepared usually justify their answers with all these parameters. Some more questions which you can ask from them are: tell me about a team you led or worked in a team. Describe a situation where you solved a problem. Give an example of a time where you made a difficult decision. Describe a situation where you showed leadership. Tell me about a time you took responsibility for a project. So these are the few questions that you may ask. Suppose you were asked for a customer service role. Describe a situation when you had to deliver excellent customer service following a complaint. Here, let's follow STAR technique. Situation. A customer rang up complaining that they had waited more than 2 weeks for a reply from our sales team regarding a product query. Task. I needed to address the client's immediate query and find out what went wrong in the normal process. Action. I apologized, got the details and passed them to our head salesperson, who contacted the client within the hour. I investigated why the query hadn't been answered. I discovered that it was a combination of a wrong mobile number and a generic email address that wasn't being checked. I let the client know and we offered a goodwill discount on her next order. Result: the client not only continued to order from us but posted a positive customer service tweet. Used at its best, the STAR structure is invisible to the listener and it simply comes across as a well-articulated example. So this was all about in-person interview and structured interviews. Hi everyone. In this video, we will have a look at current trends in onboarding. Let's first understand what is onboarding. It is the process of familiarizing a new employee with the organization and work expectation in more detail. Onboarding begins from the moment an offer is made to the employee until the time the employee becomes a productive member of the organization. This very definition suggests that the employee onboarding process extends far beyond the first day of a new hire. It continues until they have fully adjusted to their role and team. Now, why is onboarding important? Think back to your first day in any job. Chances are you were excited but nervous. If you don't receive enough attention and instruction, that may spoil your mood or your motivation to get up to speed in your new capacity. That's why this can be the reason. Now, key steps for onboarding a new hire. First is releasing the offer. The first step is releasing the offer. So once you have finalized the candidate, the first step is to make an offer to him or her and extend the offer letter. Next is offer acceptance. Usually 3 days are given to accept the offer letter, else it becomes void. Now, sometimes the employee may ask for more days to accept the offer letter, and if this happens, you must try to understand the reason why the employee is asking for this time period. Usually we consider 3 days to be a decent time period for the candidate to decide whether he or she wants to take up the offer or not. Next is waiting period. This waiting period is the time that the candidate is usually serving notice period in his or her current organization. To put it more generically, it is the time period between the acceptance of the offer letter and the day when the candidate joins the company. Stay in touch with the candidate so that they don't back out at the last moment. Try to build rapport, can help them in managing accommodation if they are relocating at a new place. Next is on joining. So once the candidate joins the organization and officially becomes the employee, there are several things that needs to be done, which is paperwork, such as acceptance of appointment letter, collecting self-attested copies of documents, academic work, identity proof, opening bank account, etc. Then details of date of birth, emergency contact number, etc. Don't forget to take their emergency numbers. Let me tell you a real situation. In one of our clients, one employee fainted. She was on some medication and her colleagues were not aware of the exact medicines. This happened within 3 to 4 days of her joining. We had her emergency contact number and updated address, hence we were able to inform her parents timely and meanwhile took her to a nearby hospital. Then it's induction. Training on company culture, achievements, products, hierarchy in company. Employee engagement activities, growth prospects, policies such as on leaves, usage of IT, salary hike, travel, etc. Many startups usually skip induction and directly jump on the work. As the company grows bigger, they keep on sharing more details. Other factor for duration of induction is the number of candidates joining. Usually for bulk campus placement, it is roughly 3 days in India. Otherwise, they usually connect them directly with the manager and the team. You must utilize this opportunity to create a positive impression on the employees and give them a sense of pride for working with this company. You can share gift item with branding of company. You can be creative as per company work culture. A very common trend nowadays in buddy program, that is, providing new hires with a mentor or a buddy. Providing new hires with a mentor or peer buddy can have a positive impact on both productivity and retention. Under Google's Buddy Hire program, most nooglers as in new hires, are given a mentor to help speed their progress towards becoming a productive employee. IBM's Royal Blue Ambassador program provides every new hire with an experienced employee mentor for 30 days in order to help them adapt quickly to working at the firm. Beyond these 30 days, IBM has a volunteer collaborative group known as the Grassroots Community, which continues to help new hires transition into IBM. Even Qualcomm provides new hires with a mentor for a full year. There are so many such examples. In induction, we get to know about product training. The duration of product training depends on how familiar he or she is with the product. Example, if a company has hired salespeople for their apparel brand, and if they are already aware of the fabric, then you can skip this product training. The actual process and the ways varies from organization to organization. Remember, as an HR, make a habit of regular follow-ups for performance or if they are facing any issues. That's all about onboarding. We will go through some common terminologies used in various domains in recruitment and selection in our next video. So click on next to explore more. Thank you. Hi everyone. In this video, we will talk about meaning and importance of HR branding. HR branding is about your company's overall image as an employer. It is all about how both your current employees and potential employees view your company as an employer. A positive HR branding strategy can help your company attract the best talent and provide a larger pool of potential candidates to select from. On the other hand, a poorly managed HR branding strategy or no strategy at all can create a barrier in the mind of talented people to have interest in your company. Hence, if your company is having problems in attracting the right set of people for the company, or you are having a difficult time retaining your current employees, then you might need to analyze your HR branding strategies. Many companies usually do marketing of their brand only from the perspective of promoting their products or services and get the business from the customer. However, now some companies have realized the importance of their branding as an employer to attract new customers to join their business. But the reality is that the awareness is still less for HR branding. We have already discussed in the challenges of recruitment that there is talent shortage. Hence, if you improve your employer branding, then it would become easier for you. Remember one thing, HR branding is also called as employer branding. On the macro level, the best strategy for HR branding is to keep your current employees happy, motivated, and engaged. And then share this with the world, such as on LinkedIn, company pages, various blogs, etc., so that outside people are also aware. Employee motivation and HR branding are very subjective topics. Different people have different styles or strategies. To understand these topics, it will help us if we make our background on psychology strong, and specifically industrial organizational psychology. Here, we will talk about it. So, talking about psychology, the term psychology comes from the Greek word psyche, meaning soul or mind, and logos, meaning word or study. Soon the focus changed from soul to mind. Hence, don't get confused with philosophy. Psychology is not philosophy. Also, philosophy is not backed by proper scientifically backed studies, but psychology is. This scientific focus remains today. First experimental laboratory in psychology was opened in 1879. To summarize all of this, I can say psychology is the science of mind and behavior. There are different fields in psychology. Few of them are clinical, experimental, counseling, industrial and organizational, human factors, consumer, school, health, educational, sport, developmental, forensic, personality, environmental, social, rehabilitation, community, cross-cultural, comparative, and many more. So talking about industrial organizational psychology. Here, we are more concerned with industrial organizational psychology, that is also known as IO psychology. It is that branch of psychology that applied psychological theories and principles to organizations. This field focuses on the scientific study of human behavior in the workplace. The field is relatively young as the development of industrial organizational psychology began around the turn of the 20th century. However, many of the foundational concepts were being used long before its recognition as a psychological specialty. Today's industrial organizational psychologist may identify preferred personality traits for different roles, develop screening procedures for new applicants, determine barriers to employee productivity, design effective training programs, evaluate the effectiveness of training programs, help companies select performance parameters, grievance handling of unhappy employees, help in designing company policies so that they improve productivity. In short, it is applied to almost all the functions of HR. Here, we will focus on the functions of employee motivation and HR branding. If you will notice, the most of the concepts in HR are subjective. That is, it depends on person to person, and it is science because it is tested on a good sample size. Here, we will cover a few of the well-known theories too. So, click next to jump in the next video. Thank you. Hi everyone. We talked about industrial organizational psychology in our previous video. In this video, we will talk about few well-known theories. So moving on to the first theory, we have conscious and unconscious mind. Imagine you are going to your college for the first time. How would you have reached there? Must be very conscious of how far to go straight, when to take left, and when to take right. Now suppose you go to your college every day. How do you reach there? Now you start from your house, do some multitasking and on and off check where you have reached and finally reach your college. Not with much efforts, right? When you start doing an activity again and again, then after some time it goes into your unconscious mind. Example, brushing teeth, typing on your phone, without consciously searching each alphabet, eating food, and many more. Culture also has an impact. For example, color black is not considered auspicious in North India, and in South India it is very auspicious. Mind gets trained consciously and then unconsciously. For example, if a North Indian is in a black room, then he or she will feel somewhat scared. And on the other hand, quite opposite for a person from South India, because your mind is fed that way. How can you apply this in the HR domain? Applications are unlimited and need to be creative in that. For example, you can make the hiring post catchy so that the conscious mind notices it, else it will go ignored. Same goes for training content or any other event. Next is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs was developed by Abraham Maslow. According to Maslow, we have 5 categories of needs, and those are physiological, safety, love, esteem, and self-actualization. In this theory, higher needs in the hierarchy begin to emerge when people feel they have sufficiently satisfied the previous need. Now, what is your role as an HR? You need to observe the current level of the employees and offer options accordingly. So now, talking about the hierarchy, we have physiological needs. These are the underlying needs we as humans can't live without. For example, food, water, sleep, oxygen, etc. For example, employees who have financial issues focus more on salary and financial benefits they will be getting. For example, free meal, free transport, etc. instead of fancy designations on esteem level. Then we have safety needs. We all need to feel safe, whether that be physically, financially, or job security or health. For example, company is stable, You are earning sufficient for savings. Providing insurance in case of emergency is important. Social needs. We all look for social connections in friends and family. For example, here, work culture is cool. You have flexible working hours and work schedules. You can choose work from home. We'll make good friends here. Have team parties. All these comes under social needs. Then, esteem needs. We all desire to have respect and be respected by others. This includes self-esteem, confidence, and a sense of self-achievement. For example, offer fancy designation. For example, business development instead of tele-sales executive. Add a variable component in CTC to inflate the CTC, if possible. Then, self-actualization. This is very subjective and has various interpretations. You can correlate with what makes that person content. For example, want to be a very good painter, cook, want to be the best mom, etc. Google's approach to this problem is 20% time on projects on employees' choice. Employees spend up to 20% of their time at work on projects that inspire them or make them content. With their 20% time, Google employees created Gmail, Google News, AdSense, and many other highly profitable products. A perk like 20% time inspires employees because it allows them to focus on things they are passionate about. That inspiration prevents burnout and hence increasing engagement and motivation. Another very popular concept is LSD by Devdutt Patnaik. Engagement level will improve if an organization is able to generate these three types of wealths: monetary, learnings, and power. As per Devdutt Patnaik, they are referred as Ma Lakshmi, Ma Saraswati, and Ma Durga. A person is motivated by power, that is Ma Durga. For example, if he feels proud working for a brand, say Google, a good designation. So, this clearly shows his power. A person is motivated by knowledge, that is Ma Saraswati. And a person is also motivated by financial rewards, that is Ma Lakshmi. This we know very well. They will be more engaged if you generate either of them, any two of them, and the best would be all three. So, as an HR, what you can do? Ma Lakshmi, maybe try to give more financial rewards. Don't be too miser. If you have sufficient budget, then give to your employees. They are the brand ambassadors of the companies. For example, Google is known for free food and benefits for its employees. Ma Saraswati, invest in learning and development. Sometimes employees prefer those companies where they believe the company is good for their learning. Give trainings, workshops, exposure to new projects for the development of your employees. Make an annual calendar and show what you have in store for them. Ma Durga, hear their views. Employees feel good when their views are heard and given importance. That is why many companies encourage open door policy and expect the managers to encourage them to open up and involve the team in decision making, especially the ones that affect them. You should also conduct employee pulse surveys. This also helps the management if they might have missed something. Some companies do this annually. However, if you work with a startup with high dynamics, then can do it more frequently. Many times you get big surprises. For example, we conducted a survey in one of our clients. There both the directors had an impression that their employees were very happy as directors interacted a lot with them. However, from the survey, it was found that many employees did not like it and saw that as an interference. Remember, they should trust you, that you're not just collecting information, but have positive intentions and will implement if feasible. Appreciate for their efforts. When employees are appreciated for their efforts, they tend to perform better and stay engaged, especially when employees are recognized amongst their peers. However, it is important to base on proper facts and figures so that all have better clarity. Fulfilling areas of interest. For example, Google follows the 80-20 rule, which allows Google employees to dedicate 80% of their time to their primary job and 20% on projects they are interested in. Flexible working hours. Many times employees don't want to work in a standard 9-to-5 job and rather want to have control on their working schedule, especially with today's generation. Some companies promote flexible hours where they ask the employees to be in office for at least 9 hours when they log in and when they log out, that employees can decide. This helps in a better work-life balance. Also, few are productive in early hours and few can't wake up early. Hence, try to be flexible. Work from home. This also gives more satisfaction to some employees. IBM is popular for the same. Also, you can give fancy designations, delegate important work, have fancy office, premium office locations, fancy gyms, team outings, etc. to boost their egos and make them feel more powerful. Hi everyone. In the previous topic, we learned about the various steps involved in recruitment and selection, where the first step was sourcing. In this topic, we will talk about sourcing in detail. So let's first understand what is sourcing in recruitment. It is a process of finding or identifying the candidates through a variety of sources. Common sources are job portals, colleges, recruitment agencies, networking, etc. Now, when it comes to recruitment, a company can either recruit internally, such as through promotion, transfer, or can take outside candidates for open positions. We can say that there are two broad ways of sourcing, and these are internal sourcing and external sourcing. Both have their own pros and cons. Let's first talk about pros of internal sourcing. So the first pros of internal sourcing is lesser cost. That is, it takes a less cost in hiring internally. You can definitely save a lot of cost in advertisement too. Then, lesser time. You can always save time by not doing any job postings, shortlisting, and onboarding, and in taking assessments. Improves employer or employee relationships, loyalty, and hence create a sense of security. Each and every employee builds hope that he or she would be given preference over outside resources, resulting in their hard work. The employee already knows the work culture and the products much better. Hence, it doesn't take additional time and effort to train the employee. So these are few pros of internal sourcing. Sometimes companies are not able to fill vacancies internally or don't want to, or they need to expand their workforce and hence they go for external sourcing. So talking about pros of external sourcing, first, it offers wider options to pick from. You get candidates with new talents and skills. and it also builds healthy competition in the existing staff. With this, we come to the end of this video. We talked about meaning of sourcing, internal and external sourcing, and their benefits. In the next video, we will focus on various sources that can be used for recruitment. Click next to explore more. Thank you. Hi everyone. In this video, we will talk about various sources that can be used for recruitment. We will talk about both internal as well as external sources. So talking about internal sources, we have promotions. It means improving designation or adding responsibilities, not necessarily salary hike. For example, you had an opening for a senior Android developer. Now, instead of hiring from outside, you have promoted Android developer to senior Android developer. This also improves the motivation among employees. Next source is demotion. It is opposite of promotion. For example, the company demoted a person if his or her performance is not good instead of terminating him or her. Next source is transfers. Now, here, the position doesn't change, but the person is transferred from one location, one department, or a team to another. So, for example, let's say a company has 2 retail stores in Mumbai, and now it wants to open one more. So, instead of hiring a new store manager for this new store, a store manager from some other store that is now running smoothly can be sent to be the store manager of this new store. So these were the internal sources of recruitment: promotions, demotion, and transfers. Now, moving ahead and talking about external sources. Employee referrals. An employee who is already working usually refers a good resource. Most organizations, in order to motivate their employees, go ahead and reward them with a referral bonus for a successful hire. Companies usually post the internal requirements on their internal web page or send emails to the employees. Employees then share the resumes of their reference to the concerned person, else the references share the employee ID of these people. Usually after 3 to 6 months of the stay of this new hire in the company, referral amount is transferred to the employee's account. Next source is former employees. You can reach out to former employees, or they can reach out to you if they want to rejoin. Then comes media advertisements. Some companies do advertisements of their job postings on various platforms. Most of them avoid television advertisements as they are expensive. For Tier 2 or Tier 3 cities or for blue-collar jobs, advertisements are given on newspaper or pamphlets, etc. Next source is factory gate recruitment. It is usually for blue-collar workers. In this vacancy, details are posted on the walls or gate of the factory. Then comes company website. Next source is the company website. Most companies have a career page and open requirements are posted there for everyone to see and apply. Next is unsolicited applications. The applications which are submitted by the candidates by themselves are referred as unsolicited applications. Here, you can maintain their database for future use in case a suitable vacancy is not there. Next source is job portal. These are gaining popularity. The most popular job portal is Naukri.com, Indeed. Being a popular job portal, Naukri.com has a very good hold. Other job portals are Times Jobs, Indeed, Shine, etc. For internships, Internshala is a popular name. These job portals usually offer free accounts to job seekers and charge from the employers. Then comes social media. This is also gaining popularity these days. Popular social media platforms are Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. The next source is campus placement. This means to hire directly from the educational institutions. This is a suitable source for hiring freshers only. For this, the HR needs to check for the recruitment cycle of the respective colleges. Few colleges allow their students to work only after the completion of their course, while few allow them to work in parallel, mostly in the last year of the course. Then comes recruitment process outsourcing, RPO, or recruitment agencies. These are the companies who hire on behalf of other companies. They usually charge 1 month salary equivalent and 3 months replacement period. That is, if their hired employee leaves within 3 months of joining, then recruitment agency needs to return the fees or hire a replacement with no extra cost. The benefit of such sources is that companies can focus on core business while they can use a recruitment agency's expertise for hiring. Some of the big names in India in terms of recruitment agencies are ABC Consultant, TeamLease, Michael Page, Manpower Group, etc. The accountability such as of just sending resumes, taking interviews, salary negotiations, final decision, background check might vary as per their terms and conditions. Next source is employment exchange. The next source that we will look at is employment exchange. They are recruitment agencies, but they are managed and operated by the government. However, the reality is that many people are not aware of this source, and hence this source is not used to its full potential. Then comes labor contractors. Here, workers are hired on the payroll of other company or intermediary. It gives some relaxation to the main company also, called as principal employer. We will be discussing it in detail in the labor law module. It's more common in blue-collar workers. So we have come across various internal as well as external sources of recruitment. Here is the list of all the sources. Promotions, demotion, transfers comes under internal sources. And under external sources, we have employee referrals, former employees, media advertisements, factory gate recruitment, company website, unsolicited applications, job portal, social media, campus placements, recruitment process outsourcing or recruitment agencies or RPO, employment exchange, and labor contractors. Click next to learn more. Thank you.
Resource management. Let us start by asking you a question. Is the current form of human resource management the same as how it started? Well, the answer is no. Keeping this in mind, let us understand the evolution of human resource management to understand this field better. In simple words, human resource management means managing the people who are working for an organization. Now, when we talk about managing people or dealing with human psyche, the basic concept will remain the same, whether it is about managing people within your family or managing people in an organization. So when a father or a mother manages the children in a family, or when a king or queen manages his or her subject, it can be seen as a precursor to human resource management. Hence, we can say that the concept of human resource management has existed since the birth of human race. However, the current form of human resource management has taken inspiration from Industrial Revolution. Before this, there were small commercial units and mainly the family participated in the work. But the era of Industrial Revolution introduced machinery and thus began the employment of a large workforce. This era started in United Kingdom in and around 1850s. The basic concept which guided the management of new workforce was that of a master-servant relationship. That is, at that time the owner saw the employees as menial servant who could be treated as the owners desired. In short, they were considered as machines. Slowly, most of the workers realized that the owner of the factory or the top management were exploiting them. And to safeguard themselves, they began forming groups. These formal groups or associations are called trade unions. Some common issues that these unions spoke about were number of working hours, rest period, working conditions, wages received, type of work, etc. To bring these issues to the top management, the trade unions use some means such as strikes, slowdowns, boycott, and sometimes even physical force. Conditions improved and the factory owners themselves started giving better treatment to these workers. Then during the period of 1950s, the scope of personnel management expanded considerably throughout the world. Several new techniques and styles of managing the human resource were developed as a result of the researches and experiments in the field. The task of personnel management, which was confined mainly to recruitment of workers, expanded to development, compensation, performance management, and maintenance of personnel. Personnel management was no longer restricted only to wage earners in the factory. It became equally important in offices, sales organizations, hospitals, non-profit organizations, government offices, and armed force. So it became a full-fledged separate department. Now, after much more changes came human resource management era. In this era, there was an inclination towards strategic functions, such as coordinating with different departments or managers and coming with strategies to improve productivity. Finally, the company started realizing that human resource was a very important factor when it come to competitive advantage of companies. Hence, attracting new candidates, developing them, retaining them, and utilizing them to the best of their potential became crucial functions of an organization. So this is how we came all the way from treating the workers as slaves to treating them as very important resources of company. Thank you. Hi. So let us see how the role of HR changes with the size of the company. So let us say there is a new e-commerce company named eMart. This is similar to Amazon. The founder of the company is Francis and he has just started the company. He's the only human resource initially. He handles marketing, finance, website and all. Now let's say he hire one person, say Mark, to support him in marketing for adding new vendors to sell their products on eMart and reaching more customers to buy from them. Now let us talk about the 4 key HR functions again. So attracting, development, utilizing and retaining. Now attracting. This is still mainly done by Francis himself. Then development. Francis shared his experiences of convincing customers with Mark, tell him how to be more confident and how to do sales, etc. Utilizing. You can give task as per strength and weakness as per the current requirement. So if Francis feels that the company need to add more vendors, then he can ask Mark to focus on that aspect. Else if you believe that the company need to focus more on getting more work from existing customers, then he can ask Mark to focus on that aspect more. Then comes the retaining function of HR. Francis needs to make Mark comfortable so that he doesn't leave. When the number of employees is less, the CEO or owner will end up having more personal connect with the team, in this case Mark. So Francis often inquires about the health of Mark family. In short, when a company has just been formed, then HRM is the responsibility of founder or the owner. It includes recruitment, training, employee motivation, deciding on how much salary to give, listening to grievances, etc. Now suppose the company grows further and hires 6 to 10 people more. Now either Mark or Francis can look after hiring, developing them, utilizing them, retaining them by solving their grievances and motivating them. Now suppose Francis wants to hire 10-20 more people, and here he feels the need to hire a dedicated person to handle recruitments. So let's say he hire a fresher, Helen, as to take care of recruitment. They did this because of budget constraint and also because they don't realize the need for any other function of HR right now. Now let's see the 4 functions again and who handles what after Helen is hired. Attracting. Helen lines up and coordinates the interview. The final decision is taken by founders or managers. Then development. Respective managers or founder is solving doubts and taking care of development. There is no proper formal training at this stage. Then utilizing. Decision making is done by managers and founders. For example, let's say they hire a coder but later realize that he is not up to the mark. At the same time, he is not that bad with what he does. So the founder and manager discuss this and decide to move him to a junior role of software testing. Then comes the retaining. Well, decision on salaries, giving flexibility in work, lunch parties, etc. are decided by founder. And all this is discussed with manager. And finally, the implementation of, say, the lunch party is done by Helen. Hence, only recruitment and implementation of party is usually done by Helen at this stage. Now the company grows further and has reached a scale of 50 to 70 employees. Let's say a period of 2 to 3 years has passed till now. Now Francis is busy and so he hands over the task of attracting, development, utilizing and retaining to the managers and HR, and his involvement is reduced. Now for Helen, who has been in the company for 2 to 3 years now, there are 2 possibilities. First, if Helen is an average HR, then she will get stuck with admin related functions such as organizing lunches, parties, events, leave calculations and recruitment, etc. Mainly with the personal management side of it. Now if Helen is a smart person and wants to get involved in strategic part of human resource management, then she will be able to take up more responsibility and add more value to this function. HR needs to be proactive in understanding what is happening around her and try to add value by building on HR expertise so that more and more people rely on his or her advice. For example, in hiring, Helen can be more aggressive in thinking about smarter ways of attracting new talent. She can keep her networking strong with the prospective candidates so that she can reach out to them when there is a requirement. She can also have a better understanding of products and services of the company so that she can provide better matches when it comes to recruitment. Then another example maybe of development. She can be proactive in analyzing the gap. She can't give all the trainings herself, but she can start with a small capsule of trainings on non-technical skills such as communication skills, email etiquettes, etc. Helen can also strengthen her hold on labor laws. Other people usually don't have even the basic knowledge of labor laws, and so here they can rely on Helen if her concepts are strong. So we see how here Helen has created more value for herself as an HR. Now let's say eMart grows bigger within the country. Well, most big companies have a full-fledged HR department which has further specialized sub-departments or teams within them. These teams are again based on different functions of HRM such as recruitment team, learning and development department, HR journalist who has an overview of all the functions of HR, a specialized department to deal with labor laws and compliances, then compensations, trade unions, etc. Basically, all the functions are usually handled by specialized teams or departments. As these departments are specialized and their work is well defined, it is possible that members of one department may not get an exposure to interact with members of other departments. So the team who handles recruitment may not be involved with learning and development function, as this may be taken care of by a totally different team. So we have seen how the scope of HRM evolves and changes with the size of the company. While initially only Francis managed this function, later on he got managers to help him out with this, and finally the HR department developed with Helen's addition to the company. And if the company grows bigger in size in future, it can have specialized departments for various functions of HRM. But the key role is HRs need to be proactive if they want to add more value to the organization. Thank you. Hi, here we will list the competencies required by an HR and explain the importance of each competency. Let us start with domain expertise. So HRs should be very good in their domain, such as labor laws, recruitment, payroll processing, performance management, motivation, and many more. Few areas such as labor laws are known only to HRs. Hence, if HRs have a hold on this, then they can save penalties for the company and also make it a much better place for work. Then we have communication. Well, HRs have to constantly interact with managers of different departments, employees, prospective employees, etc. Hence, communication both in verbal and non-verbal forms are very important competencies that HRs require. This includes proficiency in writing, reading, listening, and speaking. And when we talk about negotiation skills, team building, leadership skills, interpersonal skills, giving effective feedbacks, then there are some of the practical applications of communication. Hence, communication is the base for these further skills. Then we have professionalism. Well, HRs are the brand ambassadors of the company when they are recruiting a new workforce and a front face when they are representing the top management for the current employees. Hence, their attitude should be very professional. They themselves should follow the rules and regulations set for other staff, and people should trust their words. Let us take an example of leaves. So they should follow the leave policies themselves, then expecting only others to do that. Then we have empathy. Well, a part of their office hours goes to solving the issues of other staff. Hence, to understand it better, they need to have a strong empathy for other people. For example, if someone needs to take an emergency leave, then are you ordering them to come to office in any situation, or are you trying to understand their side of story as well? So that's in empathy. Then we have strategic thinking and planning. Well, this is a very important competency. The human factor is highly dynamic, and in most cases, HRs will not get standard solutions. They should have strategic thinking where they should correlate different factors and find root cause and think from long-term perspective. Example in training and development, improving the competitive advantage of the company by providing seemingly costly but highly effective and useful training in the long run, or adding variable components in salary to motivate employees to perform better. Then we have adaptability. Well, resources most of the time will be short. Example, budget for new hirings, budget and space issues for trainings, etc. So how you take these challenges positively and work on solutions will have a huge impact on your success. Then we have business acumen. Well, a business acumen is keenness and quickness in understanding and dealing with the business situation in a manner that is likely to lead to a good outcome. HRs need to coordinate with different departments and should be in sync with goals and objectives of the organization. Example, do you understand the products of the company, about its competitors, future prospects, growth trajectory, etc. So they need to have a business mindset. Then we have cultural awareness. With globalization and with people traveling across the country to work, we see a huge diversity in workplace. Hence, it is important for an HR to be sensitive and have cultural awareness. Customer orientation. This might sound weird, but yes, they need to have customer orientation. HRs need to understand the customers and should change their style and policies accordingly. Example, in aviation industry, their punctuality plays a key role. Hence, try to build that culture of punctuality in your staff. Or take an example of hospitality. Their grooming plays a key role. Hence, HRs should focus on grooming of their staff too. Then we have thinking out of box. Well, be creative. Resources will always be limited. So how you use given resources effectively means a lot. Common resources are time, manpower, budget, capital, etc. Then learning acumen. Well, HR is an evolving domain and will remain forever because the human factor is involved here. Hence, keep updated with the recent trends and smarter ways such as new researches or techniques in employee motivation, HR branding, training and development, HR analytics, etc. Then we have time management. Achieving better results by organizing time effectively and utilizing self-management habits that leads to increased productivity. To understand this, let us do a small activity here. First, count the number of dots in the first image. Now, how many dots are there in the second image? Well, in both the cases, it is 15. Now, when people are more organized, then it cuts a lot of unproductive time, and that is time management. Then we have tech savvy. Well, as most of the data is in digital form, hence being tech savvy is a must to have now. For example, good in MS Excel, Google Forms, etc. Then we have HR analytics. It is logically analyzing the HR data. So HR data could be of recruitment, compensation, employee engagement, performance, retention, etc. to ensure better decision making in these areas. For example, try to figure out from the data the reason why people are leaving or which job portal is giving maximum selects, which training program is giving the best results. So, analyzing the given data for better decision making. Hence, to summarize, these are some of the key competencies that HRs need to have to grow faster in the company. Thank you. Hi, here we'll cover the challenges faced in HR domain. Well, many still believe that the function of HR is to arrange events such as festivals, birthdays, etc. There are so many reasons for not getting the respect it deserves. First is, it is not seen as a revenue generating function. For example, revenue is generated by using various marketing strategies. But when it comes to the HR role, there are usually no numbers to show in terms of revenue generation. Hence, a lot of people don't see it as an important function. Second is, it is difficult to quantify the work done by HRs. In the HR field, there are not many well-known studies on the correlation between quality of the HR work and the impact on expenses. That is, we can't show how good quality HR work can help the companies save a lot of money. For example, When an HR convinces a good employee not to leave the company, he saves on a lot of money that would otherwise be used for hiring the replacement of this employee or for training an existing or a new employee to replace the employee who is leaving. Also, HRs are usually unable to convey this point in numbers. Hence, if an HR has a strong hold in the field of HR analytics, he or she can be in a much better position to quantify the results. Next major reason is the limited information. The practical knowledge of the HR domain is very limited. Let us look at some reasons to understand why this is so. The first reason is that a lot of information related to HR field is confidential, such as information about HR policies, strategies, compensation of employees, etc. And hence HR knowledge is not commonly available. So, then how can we cope up with this challenge as an HR? Well, first and foremost, it is important to keep our minds sharp and active. When you join a company as an HR, you will be told that the company follows so and so policies. Now, as an HR, it is important that you understand from your seniors the reason for a policy being put in place and always be on the lookout for information from other sources. Networking can be one way of overcoming this challenge. Try to network with HRs from other companies and build a good rapport with them. Dig deep into various policies and reforms and try to understand the reasons behind them. So, you see how having a logical mindset and a command on the competencies we spoke about in the previous topic will help you become a good and skilled HR. Now, another reason for limited practical knowledge is that there is a huge gap in the theory that is taught in educational institutes and the practical knowledge on the ground. Even though the HR courses have replaced the old term of personnel management with a new term of human resource management, still the content taught inside is still old and covers mainly personnel management. Along with this, new competencies such as business acumen, strategic thinking and planning, being tech savvy, how to keep updated with latest amendments in labor laws or compliances are not given much importance in educational institutes. Hence, the HRs that come from there are not able to handle the practical situations on the ground at many times. The third reason for limited practical knowledge that we'll look at here is the size of HR team is usually small and hence the opportunities to learn from others become very limited. Think of this way. Let us say a company has 20 employees and one HR. In this case, the HR doesn't have other people from her domain who can help her get more practical knowledge about the HR function. Now let us say the company grows in size and now has two HRs. One who has 2 to 3 years of experience and another who is a fresher in the field and mostly looks after the recruitment. In this case, the HR who is a fresher can learn from the senior HR, but the senior HR will have lack of people whom she can discuss HR related things with. Now let's say the company grows really big and has separate HR departments for different functions. In this case also, you will find less members in each team and they will remain occupied with the function of their own team. Hence again, the exchange of practical knowledge among various HRs remains very limited. So, these were the common challenges that are faced by HRs who work in HR domain. Thank you.